Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning. Share the broadcast with a friend or two. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning, Lady Ilana. I am trying to get my Periscope restarted. I knew that was going to happen at some point, and it chose right when I put the broadcast on. So, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I am your host, Shantae Charles, and I'm very, very thankful. I don't know about you, but I am very thankful to be in the land of the living. I have lots to hopefully inspire you with today as you go into your weekend. Hopefully everyone will be inspired. This is going to be I already know this is going to be a different broadcast than what I'm normally used to doing, because the Lord did something a little bit different. So, good morning, ladies. Good morning. Thank you for joining in on our Periscope. I'm going to ask if you will take a moment to share this broadcast out. I am doing so from my Daring Dialogues page on Facebook. I'm taking a moment to share the broadcast out onto my personal page. So today is Healthy, Wealthy, Wise, where we talk business, we talk health, and we talk just some wisdom tips. We're still going to be in business today. We're going to start with the Entrepreneur's Playbook, and we're going to continue to delve into the topic of having an advisory board for your business. And after that, we're actually going to take a look at a business mogul. Most people all over the world know her. I will be honest with you, I have not really been interested in reading her work. But last week, the Lord told me to pick up her last two books. And as I was searching for her last two books to begin reading, I also came upon a children's version of some of her work and some of her experiences. So even I have a children's version to share with you, which I think is pretty cool the way they did it. I like the artwork inside of this book. So we're going to talk about that business mogul that like I said, everybody knows. And I haven't really taken time to read her books. I've seen some of her magazines. Everybody knows her as, a talk show host. I recently found out that her and Maya Angelou have a personal relationship with my family back in North Carolina, which was pretty cool and pretty interesting to find out. And so we're going to talk about what she shares in the first book that I started reading. Some very, very powerful things that I think everybody can learn from and appreciate. I left one of the books, so give me just a moment. Give me a few seconds. I'll go grab it. All right. And since this is a Friday, I will probably be adding some of these readings to Monday, since that is our main time of inspiration. So let's get down to business. The Entrepreneur's Playbook, more than 100 proven strategies, tips, and techniques to build a radically successful business. This is the book, in case you are wanting to know. All right. I try to recommend books whose principles actually work. I am getting ready. Next year, January, will be 10 years of business for me. And reading through this book, I can tell you that everything he's saying in here actually works. So I try not to recommend books that I don't believe work in real life. This book actually works in real life for real people if you apply the strategies. Now, if you don't apply the strategies, I can't speak to that, but I can tell you that the information that he's sharing in here does work for business. So we're talking today about an advisory board. And he's talking about how does an advisory board play out in practice. And remember, we said that when he's talking about advisory board, yes, I am reading it from the business perspective, but also I want you to pay attention to the wording and the language that he uses in terms of any area of your life that needs advising. So I'm going to go back over to the people that he said, the kinds of people that he said you want to add to an advisory board who are going to add value to your life. He said you want people who are honest, who are independent problem solvers, who reflect the kind of values that you have, who can add industry knowledge or knowledge of whatever industry that you're in. So if you are a writer, right, you want people who have industry knowledge in the field of writing and journalism and media and maybe broadcast. If you are in the field of the culinary arts, you want people in your advisory board who maybe was a restaurant owner, right? If I'm a writer, I don't necessarily need a restaurant owner or a chef per se on my advisory board. So you want people who have industry knowledge. You want to have networking possibilities. However, you also should not be utilizing people just for their networking possibilities. You want people on your board that may be of financial assistance or who can refer you to people who can help you. And then, of course, you want someone who has a passion for what you do and a passion for what you are involved in. There's no sense in asking people to advise you or sit on a board and they don't have a passion for what you have a passion for. So, procedures. Let's talk about how this plays out in practice. You can set up your board any way you want, but I will share what works for me. I like our boards to meet quarterly, more frequently, and we end up discussing the day-to-day minutia less frequently, and small problems can become large ones before we can get around to dealing with them. So here's a good question. Should family members be on your advisory board? I know some people disagree, but I think it's important that your spouse and children be part of your advisory board, even if they are not part of the company itself. Since the business is so important to you and indirectly to them, they should be involved. I insist that they follow the rules when they attend meetings. Board meetings are not the place to discuss family issues and conflicts. They're attending to gain a better understanding of the business and to ask questions only about the business. So that would involve you making sure you have the proper boundaries in place, and you've already explained these boundaries before you add family members to your advisory board. If not, you're going to have your advisory board meetings deflected and derailed by family conflicts and concerns. So again, if you are adding family members to an advisory board, make sure they understand the boundaries, make sure they understand why they're on the board, and make sure they understand that they're only there as pertains to the business and not to bring up family matters at an advisory board meeting. So how many people should be on your board? I find somewhere between 6 and 10 works well. More than that, and it can get unwieldy. Fewer than that, and you don't have enough differing opinions. Speaking of diversity, it's extremely important. Some people think they should have board members who offset their weaknesses. If they're a marketing person, then they concentrate on having their board in finance and technology. I think that's the exactly wrong way to go. When it comes to creating a board of advisors, you're building a team, and all the team building rules apply. So what am I looking for in addition to smart, creative problem solvers when I pick a board? I want a mix of calculated risk takers as well as conservative people to help ground us. Do they have extensive business experience? Well, it's helpful but not always necessary. For example, in earlier years, I had a rabbi as one of my advisors because of his unique sensitivity and conflict management skills, which he used daily as a clergyman. It could be helpful if you knew your business was going to go in a new direction and you were going to buy a company in a different market. If your board members have expertise in those areas, is it absolutely required? No. You'll be amazed by how many people your board members know. That goes back to networking possibilities. They don't have to be experts on what you do, but you do want differing perspectives. Not only is it important to generate more and more better ideas, it also sends a positive message to your staff. If you have young people and women on your board, it reinforces to the young people and women in your company that they are important. Let's discuss what happens when the board actually gets together. How meetings should work. I recommend using the following outline so you actually maximize the benefit of an executive board. About a month before the meeting, board members get a package that contains the minutes of the last meeting, along with a note asking what topics they want to discuss this time. If there's nothing specific they want to discuss, you create the agenda. If they have specific concerns, you make sure they are addressed. You also ask what information they want to see ahead of time, such as your financial report, your projections about where your business is going, your strategies and your marketing, etc., so that they have what they need in order to make solid contributions to your meeting. It's not just them coming together and you all sitting around a table and shooting the breeze. They get the agenda about 10 days before the meeting so they have time to prepare. The meeting, running a few hours to sometimes all day, depending on what needs to be discussed, is always divided into 3 parts. Business, you discuss the issues that you want their advice on. Coaching, who needs help, both inside and outside of the company. Set up a schedule where board members can actually work on these issues or with those people. And 3, social. There's always a dinner the night before or after the meeting. Once a year, we hold meetings off-site at a resort or a nice venue, and the advisory board members are encouraged to bring their spouses. An advisory board is a team, and the social aspect is a good way of trying to forge bonds among the members. So, why would they serve? Given that they're accomplished individuals themselves who you're asking to serve as an advisor, there are going to be numerous demands on the time of the people that you'd like to serve on your board. So you have to come up with a good reason, and perhaps more than one, why they should. Not surprisingly, it all ties to the, just talked about this yesterday, Maslow hierarchy of needs. There it is again for the second time. We talked about this on yesterday. Breathing, the physiological, the safety, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. So let's start at the bottom of the triangle. Money, as in their compensation, is a factor, but not the deciding factor. For my board meetings, I pay people $200 an hour in all their expenses. In addition, advisory board members are often given other benefits such as stock options or the ability to buy shares at a discount. Even though money is not the main reason someone will serve, no one has ever turned down the paycheck. There are factors farther up the Maslow hierarchy that come into play. For many, it can be an appeal to their ego or their esteem. It is flattering to serve on someone's board. Also, having the chance to get in on the ground floor of something and help shape a company's future gives them bragging rights for their contributions. 2 last points. Never waste their time. Always show your gratitude. 4 takeaways. There are numerous advantages to having a board of advisors. If you only remember these 4, you will do just fine. Number 1, for those of you taking notes, honest feedback. It's nice to think that people who work for you will tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth when you ask for their opinions. This isn't always the case with people who receive their paycheck from you. Your board of advisors does not have these conflicts. Yes, you are paying them, but it is not enough to get them to sugarcoat their opinions. 2, networking. Ideally, your advisors will know people who can help your business grow, a factor you should be looking for when looking for board members. 3, opinions and problem solving. You always want to consider different points of view and different ways of solving problems. Your advisor should be a big help there. If they're not giving you new perspectives, they should not be on your board. And coaching. You may need to improve in certain areas. Your board could help you and the people who work with you. Next week, Lord willing, we will begin talking about the chapter or the principle 10, research the market, narrow the options, and act. Research the market, narrow the options, and act. All right. So I want to get into the business person that I was told to go and do some research on. And I was actually shocked. I was shocked for a lot of reasons. First of all, people have very, very varying opinions about Oprah Winfrey. That's who we're going to be talking about today. Some people say, that she's a wonderful person, great role model, etc. Other people feel like she could be doing more for the Black community, although that's always a slippery slope because you don't really know how much someone is doing for a community because usually people on this financial level are not divulging everything they do for communities. So you have to be careful with making judgments just by what is put in the news and the media. For example, I didn't know that one of the things that Oprah does is send young Black men to Morehouse for college. I didn't know that until I did a little bit of digging. It wasn't something that was out in the news, right? Because a lot of times people say, well, hey, she started a school over in Africa and that school is still doing well. I think she's had a couple of classes where the girls have now graduated, I think, from high school and college, and some of them are now over here in the United States working. But a lot of people don't talk about what she has done in terms of her HBCU help and connections. So again, I'm on this learning journey about Miss Oprah Winfrey, and I'm just inviting you in to listen to some of the things that she has said. I will be honest with you, I was blown away by some of the things that she shared as I started reading, and so I'm going to share just a few of the things from her book. The first one I'm reading right now is called What I Know for Sure. And again, checked it out from my local library. I always tell people you don't have to buy every book I recommend. You can go to your local library, look it up, and pick it up. All right, What I Know for Sure by Oprah Winfrey. And the other book I picked up, I believe this is her newest one. Yes, came out this year, 2019. And It's called The Path Made Clear. The Path Made Clear. Yeah, it's sort of a memoir. The miniature title, the subtitle is Discovering Your Life's Direction and Purpose. The other thing I found out while I was reading is we have lots of similarities in our personalities, and it was very disconcerting, to say the least. I won't talk about how we are alike, but very disconcerting. And then the third book, child's book, is called Run the Show Like CEO, Oprah Winfrey. And so I'm going to read a little bit of this one. I really like the illustrations in this book. It's pretty cool. This is an artist who does illustrations with paper cutouts. So rather than drawing, all of that is paper, which is pretty cool. All right. So put on your listening cap, and I want you to pay attention to some of the things that she says. Both of these books, I believe, yes, both of these books are written in interview style and vignettes. So it's not like a whole chapter reading. It's just simple, singular vignettes about different things in her life. So really, you can actually start anywhere in the book and find a vignette and read it. This book, what I know for sure, is actually divided into sections, though. And this first section is called Joy. And she has a very powerful quote here by a man by the name of Derek Walcott. And the quote is, "Sit, feast on your life." Feast on your life. Oh boy, if only people would do that, they would learn to be a lot more thankful. So I'll read you this first vignette. It says, "The first time Tina Turner appeared on my show, I wanted to run away with her, be her backup girl, and dance all night at her concerts. Well, that dream came true one night when the Oprah Winfrey Show went on tour with Tina. After a full day's rehearsal for just one song, I finally got my chance. It was the most nerve-wracking, knee-shaking, exhilarating experience ever. For 5 minutes and 27 seconds, I got a chance to feel what it's like to rock on stage. I've never been more out of my element and out of my body. I remember counting the steps in my head, trying to keep the rhythm, waiting for the big kick, and being so self-conscious. Then, in an instant, it dawned on me. This is going to be over soon. And if I didn't loosen up, I would miss the fun. So I threw my head back, forgot about step, step, turn, kick, and just danced. Several months later, I received a package from my friend and mentor, Maya Angelou. She'd said she was sending me a gift she'd want any daughter of hers to have. When I ripped it open, I found a CD of a song by Lee Ann Womack that I can still hardly listen to without boo-hooing. The song, which is a testament to Maya's life, has this line as its refrain: "When you get the chance to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance." What I know for sure is that every day brings a chance for you to draw in a breath, kick off your shoes, and step out and dance. To live free of regret and filled with as much joy, fun, and laughter as you can stand. You can either waltz boldly onto the stage of life and live the way you know your spirit is nudging you to, or you can sit quietly by the wall, receding into the shadows of fear and self-doubt. You have the choice this very moment, the only moment you have for certain. I hope you aren't so wrapped up in non-essential stuff that you forget to really enjoy yourself, because this moment is about to be over. I hope you'll look back and remember today as the day that you decided to make everyone count. to relish each hour as if there would never be another. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. Now, after I read that story, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I was done. I was done because that is actually one of the songs that actually I can't listen to without boo-hooing, because it was my father's favorite song. And whenever I am going through, and I mean whenever I'm just going through and I'm listening in for God throughout my day, I don't care where I am. And it's one of the episodes is on my IG. I could be in the middle of a store and all of a sudden this song will come on and start playing and I'm done. I'm just done for the day. So I could actually completely relate to that story. I want to share this one because it's talking about Oprah's roots. And after I share it, I'm going to share, because this one actually goes into a little bit more detail, I'm going to share the detail one from the children's book. Very powerful upbringing story. No matter who we are or where we come from, we all have our own journey. Most of you in my coaching group have heard me say, as God told me, everyone has their own spiritual terrain. So I can't judge your journey because I haven't walked your terrain. Some of our terrain has been nothing but paved roads, sunny days, and flowers. And other people's terrains have been paved roads, sunny days, flowers, tornadoes, hurricanes, cyclones, earthquakes, hills, mountains, and valleys, sometimes with no shoes. So I can't judge your journey because your journey is yours. Mine, she says, mine began one April afternoon in 1953 in rural Mississippi, where I was conceived out of wedlock by Vernon Winfrey and Vernita Lee. Their one-time union that day, not at all a romance, brought about an unwanted pregnancy, and my mother concealed her condition until the day I was born. So no one was prepared for my arrival. Oprah, I feel you. This is one of those similarities. There were no baby showers. There was no anticipation of delight that you would see in the faces of expectant friends who rub their swollen stomachs with reverence. My birth was marked by regret, hiding, and shame. When the author and counselor John Bradshaw, who pioneered the concept of the inner child, appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 1991, he took my audience and me through a profound exercise. Now, I've actually been through this exercise with another counselor, so I understand what she's talking about, the exercise of the inner child. He asked us to close our eyes, go back to the home where we grew up in, to visualize the house itself. Come closer, he said. Look inside the window and find yourself inside. What do you see? And more important, what do you feel? For me, it was an overwhelmingly sad yet powerful exercise. What I felt at almost every stage of my development was lonely. Not alone, because there were always people around, but I knew that my soul's survival depended on me. I felt I would have to fend for myself. As a girl, I used to love when company would come to my grandmother's house after church. When they left, I dreaded being alone with my grandfather, who was senile, and my grandmother, who was often exhausted and impatient. I was the only child for miles around, so I had to learn to be with myself. I invented new ways to be solitary. I had books and homemade dolls and chores, farm animals I often named and talked to. I'm sure that all that time alone was critical in defining the adult I would become. Looking back through John Bradshaw's window into my life, I was sad that the people closest to me didn't seem to realize what a sweet-spirited little girl I was. But I also felt strengthened seeing it for myself. Like me, you might have experienced things that caused you to deem yourself unworthy. I know for sure that healing the wounds of the past is one of the biggest and most worthwhile challenges of life. It's important to know when and how you were programmed so you can change the program. Somebody need to write that down because there's a whole sermon right there. I'm going to say it again. It's important to know when and how you were programmed so you can change the program. And doing so is your responsibility, no one else's. There is one irrefutable law of the universe. We are each responsible for our own life. That's actually something that the Holy Spirit told me earlier this week. You are responsible for the you that you bring to this world. Show up as you and you will get what is yours in this universe. Show up as anybody else and you will always feel cheated and miss what the universe has on reserve for you. I'm going to just say la right there. If you're holding anyone else accountable for your happiness, you're wasting your time. You must be fearless enough to give yourself the love you didn't receive. Whole other preach word right there. I wish I had an organ because it would be cued right there. Begin noticing how every day brings a new opportunity for your growth. How buried disagreements with your mother show up in arguments with your spouse. How unconscious feelings of unworthiness appear in everything you do and don't do. All these experiences are your life's way of urging you to leave the past behind and make yourself whole. Pay attention. Every choice gives you a chance to pave your own road. Keep moving full speed ahead. Now, I have two more to share from this particular book, but I'm going to pause because I have to read this to you. Oprah's early childhood. The Little Preacher. Here we go. Oprah Winfrey sat on the steps outside of her grandmother's farmhouse in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, inspecting the dress she had been given to wear that morning. She was only 4 years old, not even old enough to go to school, not even old enough to go to school, but she knew she was different than the other children she would see in town and at church. While the other girls wore pretty cotton dresses in blue or yellow or pink, Oprah's dress was made out of a potato sack. Her grandmother, Hattie Mae Lee, had fashioned it for her. They were very poor, and a $2.50 pretty dress was too expensive for Hattie Mae to buy. Hattie Mae, like Oprah, was black, and in the 1950s, being a black woman in the South meant you didn't have a lot of opportunities to get good jobs that paid good money. It also meant that white people treated you differently, like you were less worthy of a good life because of the color of your skin. And so Oprah was made fun of by other girls for being a poor black girl who wore potato sack dresses. They called her Sack Girl. Oprah clutched her corncob doll tightly and thought about her mother, Vernita Lee. She hadn't seen her mother for a few years. Vernita had been a teenager when she had Oprah on 29th of January, 1954, and she didn't have a job to support herself or her daughter. She went north to find work as a maid, but she could not bring Oprah with her. So Oprah lived with Hattie Mae on the farm. Oprah knew life was harder for her because of the color of her skin. Her grandmother was born in 1900, a revolutionary time for black people in America. Slavery had been abolished, but segregation and discrimination were still deep-rooted in the country, especially in the South. Though Hattie Mae was not born a slave, she was often treated like a lesser human by the white people she worked for. And yes, Hattie Mae would tell Oprah that she should hope to grow up to work for some good white folks who would sometimes spare her leftovers from their dinner table. It seems like an awful thing to say to a little girl now, But remember back then, this paltry offering of food to a woman who worked long hours for you and your family was seen as a radical act of kindness from a white person to a black person. Hattie Mae could not imagine a world where she might hope to be treated any better, and so she could not imagine one for Oprah either. Oprah watched a cockroach run back and forth across the stoop and wondered how long it would be until Hattie Mae would finish washing the white people's clothes in the basin of hot water and help Oprah with her reading and writing. Oprah loved reading and writing, and Hattie Mae thought Oprah was a wonderful reader and writer. But more than that, Oprah loved to talk. She could talk all day and never tire of it. Every Sunday, Hattie Mae would take Oprah to church. While other children Oprah's age would fuss around and get antsy, Oprah listened intently to the words being spoken. Soon, she was asked to recite verses in front of the whole congregation. She was never nervous. She loved that everyone was listening to what she had to say. It made her feel special, like she was a voice worth listening to. Hattie Mae told the old ladies at church, "That child is gifted." Other kids might have called her Sat Girl, but the church congregation started to call her the Little Preacher. And Oprah, even though she was only 4, knew she wanted to grow up and get paid to talk. Love the illustration. And these 2 quotes from Oprah are very, very, very powerful. I'm not going to go into another chapter. Again, you can pick this book up from your local library. All right? You have some talkers in your family. You have some children that won't stop talking. Can I get you to stop discouraging that? Thanks. Hallelujah. Amen. Yeah. Get them this book and read it to them. Sometimes we are tamping down things that are the innate part of a child. Yeah, that's another sermon. This one says, "I know what it feels like to be abandoned, to not be wanted, to not be loved, and yet have inside yourself a yearning, a passion, a desire, a hope for something better." Now, you know I'm going to take a picture of this, right, and put it on my page today. I am. So you probably find it on Black Table Talk. Another powerful quote by Oprah. It says, "I remember a specific moment watching my grandmother hang the clothes on the line and her saying to me, 'You are going to have to learn to do this,' and me being in that space of awareness and knowing that my life would not be the same as my grandmother's life." Can you recognize when someone is trying to foist a dream on you that is not your dream for your life? Can you recognize when someone is trying to force on you a dream that is not the dream for your life? She was able to recognize, she had enough awareness that something was different about her. Even as a child, she had enough awareness to know that my grandmother's path is not the path that is destined and designed for me to take. And sometimes people can mean well, but they can be very wrong, even in their meaning well. Last thing I want to share with you today, we are ending early, is the question that the Holy Spirit posed to me when I got up this morning. And the question was, what is deliverance? What is deliverance? Now, when I heard that question, my brain immediately went to church. My brain immediately went to people hopping around. My mind's eye went to those times when I was down on the ground worshiping God. Other people might have been crying out. Other people might have been rolling around. I've rolled around sometimes myself. So I'm not knocking the holy rollers. But then the Holy Spirit said this to me, and I'm going to read it just the way he gave it to me. He said, deliverance is balancing your financial accounts. Deliverance is a well-organized home. Deliverance is a good long cry. Deliverance is finally getting to the place where you treat everybody right. Deliverance is refusing another slice of that lovely, delicious chocolate cake that you like. Deliverance is a walk around the yard or the block every single day. Deliverance is being attentive and keeping your eyes on your spouse only. Let's stop trying to make someone else's deliverance look like yours. Selah. And all I could say was, well, I guess I'm going to redefine deliverance for my own life. Can't speak to anybody else. Yeah, I was done too, Lady Judy. Woo, child. Woo, child. Blessed be. The last thing he said to me, he said this, and this doesn't have a title. He said, when you think you aren't doing something important, monumental, and earth-shattering, you don't treat it with the importance or care that you should. I'm going to say that one more time. When you think you aren't doing something important, monumental, or earth-shattering, you don't treat it with the importance or care that you should. But your soul is all of those things: monumental, important, and earth-shattering. Treat it that way every single day. Done. So, I want to thank you all for tuning in today. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I hope that I have said something today that will make you a little bit more healthier in spirit, wealthier in your soul, and wiser in your business dealings. I want to thank you all for taking the time today. Thank you all on Facebook Live. If you want to join us for our continued conversation, you can join us at pscp.tv/Life Nation, where we will be taking audio comments from our viewers. Until Monday, take care and God bless.